overwhelmed with frustration, sadness, and desperation. The combination of the principal's little rebellion and Aaron's betrayal shook me to the core. I acted on a whim without thinking through things. I took my laptop, made an anonymous account, and started posting clues to the principal's secret in my school's web group. If he wanted to act all tough, I was going to show him that I was tougher. Soon enough, he called. His pitiful voice calmed me, giving back my sense of power. He was willing to do anything to get me to erase those posts. He sounded like he was crying. A part of me realized that I should have felt bad for him, but instead, that made me feel so much better. "Remember Aaron?" I asked. I grinned and looked at my reflection in the mirror. "I think he needs a change in schedule. Make it more like mine." "No problem," he replied right away. "I will do it. I will do anything." I pretended to hesitate for a while longer, just to enjoy the sound of our big, scary principal. Or so I once thought, whining and begging. After the call, I deleted all the posts. I could use having the principal on my side for a while longer. The next week showed me I made the best possible decision. Aaron was now spending most of his school days with me, and we were close again. The principal was doing everything I wanted, and the other blackmailer wasn't half as bad as I expected. They made the principal put fast food in the cafeteria, and I continued to use my power to punish the bad seeds. I felt victorious knowing that most bullies at the school either have detention or are indefinitely expelled. All those years I spent being bullied by queen bees and jocks didn't seem so bad now that karma would find its way to make things fair. And I can't lie, I loved feeling like the acting hands of fate. With one day left before prom, I got a new message from the other blackmailer. They were planning to take the principal down at prom, reveal his secret, and give him over to the police. And somehow, that person knew who our next principal would be, and how to make that person work for us as well. We spent hours chatting and discussing our plan. The prom went perfectly, and the thought of what would happen at the end made it even better for me. Though Aaron and I didn't go together, and quite frankly, I was a little bitter about that. We danced together for a while. I had a lot of fun with my friends, and the band was great. When the fun started to die down, the presentation the other blackmailer and I made the day prior was planned. I was looking at the principal, enjoying his devastation as he watched the school find out about his gambling problem. Now everyone knew that he gambled away the school's valuable art collection and a portion of the school's fund. By the end of the presentation, he was being handcuffed by the police that I called in advance. But the police also handcuffed Aaron, as it turned out he is the other blackmailer. I looked around nervously, half expecting to be the next one escorted out, yet nothing happened. It was just the two of them. I got away with it. And even more than that, the other blackmailer, Aaron, had found out the principal's secret and emailed it to me this morning. I didn't just get away with it. I had the chance to make my senior year perfect. The future looked bright as I watched the two of them get into cop cars, knowing that I had nothing but victory ahead.
My best friend Callie once told me that good things and bad things happen in threes. I didn't believe it at first. Then 3 totally bad things happened to me, and it changed my life forever. It all started on a day like any other day. "I can't believe you got the skirt!" Callie screamed the moment she saw the new stuff in my room. "You're so lucky, it's so gorgeous. Samantha is going to die with envy." I felt kind of embarrassed at Callie's gushing. I mean, the skirt was pretty and kind of expensive, but it was just a skirt after all. Suddenly, my mom came into my room. "Hope, honey, can you bring this over to Mr. Jenkins' apartment, please?" Callie turned her head away and rolled her eyes. I had to stop my giggles. Mr. Jenkins lived a few doors down from us and next door to Callie. His house smelled so bad. "Now, please," Mom added. She left a basket full of freshly baked bread on my dresser. Mom is always baking. I guess she had nothing better to do all day since Dad made enough money to keep us comfortable. Callie says that we're more than just comfortable, though. "I wish I could go shopping anytime like you," Callie moaned while she stretched on my bed. "I wish I could have a bag like this and a skirt like this." I felt bad for Callie sometimes, so I offered to give her my new stuff. I mean, I can always buy them again. Callie took them quick enough. She walked with me to Mr. Jenkins' door. "Good luck with Mr. Stinky," she whispered, as she went back to her own apartment. Mr. Jenkins opened the door quickly after hearing my knock. Although his face seemed pleased to see the breadbasket, he was still gruff and grumpy. "Your mom's making me eat too much," he complained. I told him not to worry. I'm sure Mom used all organic stuff and healthy things in her baking. A lot of health-conscious people are always asking her to make things for them. "Where's your friend? The next-door neighbor of mine?" Mr. Jenkins asked. "That girl who always wrinkles her nose at me. I don't like her." I had to cover my mouth so he wouldn't see me smile. I could tell him that Kelly didn't like him either, but I still had to be polite. When I got back home, Dad was there. He looked stressed. "Come to the kitchen, Hope," he said. "I have something important to tell you." I sat in front of the table still smiling when my dad broke the most terrible news. He had lost his job. His company was closing and filing for bankruptcy. He wasn't even getting his last paycheck. Mom clutched her chest. My mouth gaped open. "What are we going to do?" my mom whispered with horror. Dad said that we'd have to live off of our savings for a while, but we had to cut down on a lot of things. That included a big chunk of my allowance. "I'm very sorry, Hope," Dad said to me. "I'm just glad that your school's paid up for the year. We'll worry about next year's tuition fee when we get there." But I wasn't worried about school at all. I just remembered that I had just given my newest clothes to Kelly, and now we couldn't afford to buy me fee when we get there. But I wasn't worried about school at all. My stuff to hers. When I told Kelly about what had happened to my dad, I was surprised at her reaction. "They can't cut your allowance," she cried. "That's so unfair." I tried to defend my dad. "I mean, it wasn't his fault that his company was going under. They should be the ones to cut back, not you," Kelly said. "They're the grown-ups. It's not your fault that your dad lost his job." "Well, it's not my dad's fault either," I snapped back at her. "Sometimes Kelly can be such a brat. We've been friends for a long time, but sometimes she acts so spoiled. Since I didn't have any extra money, I needed to find a job. Unfortunately, the only job for me was babysitting." "Hey, I already take care of most of the kids in the building," Kelly said. "Don't steal them from me, okay?" I sighed. I wished that Kelly was willing to share some of her clients with me. I needed the money more than she did. One day, I was walking down the hallway to our door when Mr. Jenkins appeared. "Do you need a job?" he asked. I nodded, although I didn't know if he had any leads for me. "I need somebody to clean up my apartment," he continued. "Will you do it? I'll pay you." Mr. Jenkins' house smelled really bad, but I was desperate. My parents needed the money for food and household stuff. They didn't have extra to give me, so I agreed to Mr. Jenkins' plan. I was going to start the next day. My mom was thrilled. Even if we had so little money, she still made healthy sandwiches to share with Mr. Jenkins every day. If his house smelled bad from the outside, the inside was 100 times worse. I had to cover my mouth to keep from gagging. It smelled like sour milk and old tuna. "Sorry about the smell," he told me when he saw my face. "But as you get older, you don't smell things as well anymore. That's why I need you to clean up. I've been getting complaints from the neighbors." I'm sure he was. If Kelly's mom was as outspoken as her daughter, she would have tried to get Mr. Jenkins evicted. I started with the kitchen, then the bedroom, then the bathrooms. At the end of the first day, I had almost 10 big trash bags full of junk. It was kind of disgusting, but there were interesting things too. "You want this?" Mr. Jenkins said while holding a small telescope. I'm too old to be bird watching anyway. The telescope was sticky with grime, but after I wiped it clean, it looked brand new. "Wow, thanks, Mr. Jenkins," I said. And for the first time ever, he smiled at me and he handed me a transistor receiver with a remote control. He said that he used the gadget to listen to the different mating calls of birds. Mr. Jenkins even suggested that I go to the roof if I wanted a better look at them. I totally forgot all about that, however, when I got home. I found my parents in the kitchen again. My mom had tears running down her cheeks. What was worse was that my dad was teary-eyed, too. "There are no jobs for me," he said with a dead voice. "I'm willing to take on any job, but nobody is hiring." Mom went to kneel in front of Dad, and she cupped his face in her hands. "Don't lose hope," she said so tenderly. "We'll get through this." I never felt so scared in my life as I did that night. It wasn't about the money, though. It was remembering my parents looking so scared themselves. A few days later, I went to the roof, just as Mr. Jenkins suggested. It was so peaceful up there. I never really realized how big the sky was. It made me feel so small. And with that feeling, I realized that my problems were small as well. Anything was still possible. I just had to hope. I took out the telescope and the drone transistor radio. I tried to follow some birds around, and I had one more realization. Bird watching was terribly boring. So instead of looking up, I used the telescope to spy on the people on the street. To my surprise, I saw Kelly stepping out of our building. I made the transistor receiver follow her from above.
It's all new and it's all new. Every day, only on Nickelodeon.
Hey, Samantha, she shouted to the nicely dressed girl waiting for her at the corner. Samantha looked very happy to see her. They seemed like best friends. They even linked their arms together and started giggling at once. Nice bag, Samantha said admiringly. Thanks, Kelly replied. I looked closer at the bag on her shoulder and saw that it was the brand new designer bag that I gave her. Where's Hope? Samantha asked. Kelly started to laugh. I don't know. I don't care, Kelly replied. She sunk so low. She's sad and pathetic now. She's practically a cleaning lady. I call her Miss Stinky because she's cleaning the house of our neighbor, old Mr. Stinky. Tears filled my eyes and I let go of the receiver remote control. I couldn't listen anymore. I felt so betrayed. I never thought that Kelly could ever talk about me like that. It wasn't just my dad who lost something, I whispered. It looks like I lost my best friend too. I didn't think it was possible, but my day got even worse. After I lost sight of Kelly and Samantha, I saw someone else stepping out of our building. It was my mom. She was waving to someone in a car, and it stopped to pick her up. It was a flashy car, and my mom was smiling from ear to ear. She was also dressed up to the nines. The driver stepped out of the car and walked over to open her door. I didn't recognize him, though. He was very handsome. My mom was looking at him like he was a gift from the heavens. I started to feel cold all over. There was something going on here, but I wasn't sure what it was. So for the next 3 days, I went to the roof. Every day, Mom came out of our building. Every day, she got into the stranger's car. She seemed happier than I had ever seen her. Then I remembered what Kelly told me about the 3 bad things happening together. First, my dad lost his job. Second, we lost our money. And now for the third, it seems like my mom was having an affair. How could she do this? How could she betray us? When she finally got home on the 3rd day, she was still smiling. A part of me was hoping that she was doing something else. Anything else other than cheating on my father. But she never said anything. I could see that she was trying to act all normal, but I caught her smiling behind my father's back. When Dad asked her what she did that day, she just answered that she spent the day baking. I wanted to scream that I knew her secret. The only baking she did that day was a cheater's pie. I wanted to confront her, but I just couldn't. Not yet anyway. It was hard to even get up in the morning. The next day was my last day cleaning for Mr. Jenkins. It was unrecognizable now. It smelled so much better, too, after all the essential oils and diffusers I used. Before I left, Mr. Jenkins handed me an envelope with cash as payment for my cleaning services. When I peeked inside, I gasped. It was more money than I expected. It was more money than my allowance. Mr. Jenkins? I asked him. Are you sure you put the right amount in here? Why? He growled. Do you want some more? No, I quickly replied. I told him that it was more than what he owed me. I tried to give some of it back, but he wouldn't take it. Just go and spend it on whatever you kids like to buy nowadays, he added. Then he practically shoved me out the door. Wow, I didn't think that Mr. Jenkins was rich enough to give this much money to anyone. Was my luck finally turning? The 3 bad things were done and over with. The envelope full of cash in my pocket was definitely a good thing. Should I expect 2 more good things to follow now? I was scared to hope after everything that had happened. But when I got home, my mom was impatiently waiting for me. Hurry up, Hope, she said. I have an announcement to make. My heart sank to my stomach. My mom looked fantastic and made up. She definitely looked like she was in love and having an affair. I braced myself to hear her announcement that she was leaving us. How was I going to take care of my dad all by myself? Mom practically pushed me down into a chair beside my dad. Then she dramatically made her announcement. I got a job, she cried. What? I cried. What? Dad repeated. My mom started talking really fast. She was so excited. She said that she got a call from a friend who owned a restaurant. They suddenly got an investor who wanted to expand their store and add a bake shop. That investor insisted that they get my mom to head the kitchen. Since they already loved her breads, it was a done deal. I get to do what I love to do and get paid for it, my mom cried out with happiness. How much money are we talking about here? My dad said breathlessly. Well, Mom said with a shy smile, it's not as big as your salary used to be, but it's close. My dad was so relieved and so happy that he picked up my mom right there in the middle of the kitchen and spun her around. Then they started dancing. They were acting like crazy people, but I have to admit, I was so happy I wanted to dance along with them. The next day, my mom baked a special batch of bread and told me to bring some to Mr. Jenkins again. I was happy to do it for her. I haven't said thank you to you, she said softly. What for? I asked. Well, you never complained when we cut your allowance, Mom said. You never complained about having to work and to clean up Mr. Jenkins's apartment. Thank you for being such a good sport about all of this. She gave me a big hug. I don't think a lot of kids would have reacted the way you did, she added. I couldn't help but remember Kelly. She thought that my parents were just being unfair to me. She was wrong. We were all doing the best we could. When I got to Mr. Jenkins's place, I took a big sniff from the bread basket. It smelled like victory and hope. I was surprised when Mr. Jenkins asked me to join him for tea. Your mom's bread will make the tea bearable, he said with a rough laugh. I sat in front of him and took a bite from a bread roll. I'm sure that your mom's bakery will be a success, he said suddenly. I nodded. Then I gasped. How did he know about it? Mr. Jenkins laughed at the look on my face. Then I saw a twinkle in his eyes. Didn't they say who the new investor was? He asked me. It turns out that Mr. Jenkins himself was investing in the bakery. He was the brains behind it all. He was so touched that my mom was thoughtful enough to give him free food, whether we had money or not. He knew that he had to help people who were kind like that. I also did it for you, you know, he added. You're a pretty good kid. I thought you were going to turn down my job offer to clean my house, but you faced it like a responsible adult. Mr. Jenkins kept on talking, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't know that he was a millionaire, and that he even owned the whole building that we lived in. I thought he was just a grumpy old man. But it turns out that he used to be a very successful businessman before he retired. I'm thinking of hiring a person to manage all my apartment blocks, he told me. Is your dad still available? I think he's a good choice. I could only nod as Mr. Jenkins made plans to talk to my dad that day. That's 3 things, I said under my breath. What did you say? Asked the old man. 3 things, I said again. 3 good things are happening right now after the 3 bad things that happened before. First, my dad lost his job. Second, we lost our money. Third, then I stopped talking. There wasn't a third thing. My mom wasn't having an affair. What's the third thing? Mr. Jenkins asked. There's none, I replied. I can think of one, he said. Then he told me about Kelly. The real reason why he never liked Kelly was because he overheard her talking about me. Apparently, Kelly only wanted to be my friend because she liked all the free stuff she got from me. Your friendship with that girl was the first bad thing that happened to you, he said. She was a bad friend. I don't hear her talking about you anymore. Now she just goes on and on about this new girl, Samantha. I thought hearing about Kelly and Samantha would hurt me, but oddly enough, it didn't. I guess going through everything these past few months made me realize that there were more important things in life. My mom was right, I said softly. I thought of all the new directions we were taking. Our lives were about to change.
This Clinique foundation, it actually improves your skin with every wear. Want proof? Let me slip into something more clinical. Good for skin ingredients, so skin looks brighter and smoother. And dark spots are less noticeable. Today looks like my best skin day. Tomorrow's looking even better.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm 15, and I've been with my cute, sweet, animal-loving boyfriend, Chris, for almost 2 years, not including the 2 weeks we had broken up. Before we dive into that drama, go ahead and push that bell to subscribe so that your partner doesn't break up with you. And click that thumbs up to be double sure. Alright, well I guess I should start by mentioning that Chris and I have known each other since middle school. He was my friend back when I didn't really have any other friends. He's almost 1 year older than me, but we've always been in the same grade, and he's always had my back. While the summer before high school, I bloomed, as my mom would say. And when Chris and I got to high school together, I started to get noticed by more than just him. I got more friends. And more, and more. What I'm trying to say is, I became pretty popular and, well, irresistible. I'd never felt irresistible before. My whole life, it's like I had been completely invisible, even with my own family. But all of a sudden, here I was, the center of attention to the whole 9th grade. I enjoyed it, but it didn't really get to my head. That is, until Joseph noticed me too. I have had a crush on Joseph since the first day of the 1st grade. I don't think he ever even knew my name, but suddenly he was finding ways to sit next to me in science class and asking if I wanted to sit next to him at lunch. Chris and I didn't have lunch together, so I figured it was pretty harmless. And it was. Until one day, Joseph put his arm around me. My heart fluttered a mile a minute. I was in total heaven. So much so that for a moment, I completely forgot about Chris. And when I did snap out of it, I politely reminded Joseph that I have a boyfriend and asked him to take his arm off of me. He did, and then he whispered in my ear, maybe we can do that somewhere else, somewhere more private.
We are enchanted, terribly impatient, infinitely pleased, royally excited, super ready, and totally to see you again.
There is no magic without you.
Book your 2021 stay at DisneylandParis.com. And right now, amend or cancel without fees.
Get the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2 and keep track of your health and your life. Get it from R2 and pay the price you want. That should keep your heart rate down. Find out more.
Man, I didn't even know what to say. My cheeks blushed, and I'm pretty sure I even started to sweat. I was excited and nervous and nodded my head yes, and then excused myself to the bathroom. Once I got to the empty bathroom, I jumped up and down and looked in the mirror and screamed a silent scream of excitement. I had never felt so alive in my life. I felt my phone vibrate, and it was Joseph asking where I was and if now was a good time for that privacy. Oh my gosh. Before I even knew it, I was texting him to come find me, hinting to where I was. Well, I'll save all of those details for another time, but let me just say we kissed. And it felt so good until I got back to class. While I was sitting in my math class, daydreaming about Joseph kissing me, Chris texted me. I heard you have a new boyfriend. Weird duck. Suddenly, my feelings of being on top of the world sank into complete despair. I may have just ruined my relationship with my perfect boyfriend of 2 years. Our relationship may not feel as exciting as what I felt with Joseph, but I love Chris so much. My heart was breaking.
More than a dozen police officers dragged 38-year-old Kwaya Huru Govan into a Brooklyn courtroom this morning. Govan was scheduled to be arraigned on murder charges for the 2005 beheading death of 19-year-old Rashawn Brazil, whose body parts were found in trash bags inside a Brooklyn subway tunnel. But Govan refused to be fingerprinted.
Obviously, he thinks he's being framed. Why would anyone say they're being framed?
Govan is also facing murder charges for the 2004 dismemberment of 17-year-old Sharabia Thomas. His arrest solving 2 cold case murders within a few months.
Mr. Govan's DNA was not on file until he was arrested and charged for a robbery in Florida. Once that became on file, that's why we were able to make the match from the Sharabia Thomas homicide.
Detective Boyce would not confirm a DNA match in the Brazil case, but he did say Kwaya Huru could be responsible for even more murders.
This particular perpetrator has been all over the country. He's been in Florida, he's been in California. We will go forward with that. Any other case that might fit these parameters.
Today's courtroom outburst did little to tarnish the closure that Brazil's mother has waited 12 long years for.
I want to thank the detectives, the agency, the whole cold case unit for just staying by my family and was determined to assist us with getting some kind of answers.
The next step, the judge says Govan will be back in court every day until he agrees to be fingerprinted and can be arraigned.
A job interview turns into a sexual battery. Tonight, a business owner is accused of raping a woman who was looking for work. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Wendy Ryan.
And I'm Jameson Euler. The man behind us now charged after a woman reports a terrifying encounter inside his Clearwater business.
Yeah, reporter Clifton French uncovering the details that we want to warn you are very disturbing. He also spoke to a former employee who says she quit because of sexual harassment.
According to this report, that woman was applying for a job here at Tender Touch Transport Service. It was inside of this building where she claims the owner sexually assaulted her. The report is difficult for anyone to read.
Sounds like the same thing, but he didn't mean.
For Asia Chambers, the words on this page are all too familiar.
It got to the point where I'd go up to his desk and he'd grab my behind and just try to kiss me all the time.
Asia worked at Tender Touch Transport Service, a wheelchair transport company located off of South Missouri Avenue. She says she is ABC.
Now at 11, bloodied and bruised. A father catching a teen he says was in the act of sexually assaulting his son.
I got him in a bloody puddle for you right now, officer.
That father faced with an unimaginable situation. Good evening, everyone. I'm James Hewlett.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Social media tonight buzzing about a dad taking...
A father shocked and outraged after a teacher told his daughter to keep a secret from him.
A secret about what was happening to her at school. News 13's Catherine Mazzone has the story.
My kids are my everything. They want to tell me everything.
Jonathan Washington knew something wasn't right when he picked up his 2 kids from Sage Montessori Charter School on Thursday.
My son had just told me right off the top that, hey, Brownie, you need to tell Dad what happened.
A classmate she's had trouble with before asked her an inappropriate question.
Have you seen a black penis?
Brianna, a 4th grader, was also called the N-word. Then she says she told her not to talk about it.
She said, don't tell your dad.
Washington was in shock. He went straight to the teacher and recorded their conversation on his cell phone, which he shared with News 13.
Why would you tell her, don't tell me that?
Because I thought we should solve the problem.
Washington says he had a right to know.
I am not going to make a big deal out of every single thing that happens to children, especially with...
Not a big deal?
But it was a big deal for Brianna and her dad.
Because I don't like things on here, and it scares me.
Then why do you keep hanging out with these people?
Blaming my daughter for this incident.
Washington is worried about what his daughter is learning.
You taught my daughter to lie to me. You were trying to teach my daughter to lie to me. It didn't work.
The school's head administrator, Felix Garcia, also has a problem with how the teacher handled the situation.
I'm going to conduct a full investigation, and then depending on the investigation...
Good afternoon, I'm Eric Paulson. Thank you for joining us today. We begin with an issue that has caused plenty of outrage and controversy on social media. A family of a Christ the King middle school student in Terrytown claims their daughter was sent home from school because of her hairstyle. It's apparently school policy for students to have only natural hair, and this student had extensions. Stu Carter is joining us in the studio, and a lot of people are talking about this, especially online. A lot of people outraged by it.
A lot of people outraged, a lot of people have sounded off about this issue, and many folks have spoken that on Christ the King's Facebook page, and many parents I spoke to say it's a pretty sticky situation. So take a look at this video here. Now, as you can see in this video, the child is very upset and distraught, and family members tell us school leaders implemented the policy over the summer. However, they say there was not a notice sent home to inform parents of the new hair policy. They say the young girl attended a teacher-parent meet and greet before school started, and nothing was said to her about her hair being against school policy. But that video has gone viral, and even rapper T.I. spoke about it. He said on his Instagram post, in part, quote, "How do you feel?"
First on Fox tonight, all right, you send your kids off to school expecting that they may come home with a little homework or even some books, right? But you'd never expect them to come home with a shaved head.
I know. Well, one Lehigh Acres family is outraged after they say a counselor at their son's school shaved his head because his haircut wasn't appropriate.
4 reporters Christy Diamond working to get to the bottom of this one. Christy?
All of this started when the 6th grader's stepdad, who actually owns a barber shop, gave him a special haircut before the Miami Heat game last weekend. Well, when he showed up...
You're too slow!
school district, and they have a different story. They say Danny's stepdad agreed to the cut to keep Danny out of in-school suspension, but nonetheless admits it shouldn't have happened, saying, quote, the district acknowledges the actions taken by personnel were not appropriate.
I was really livid. I don't know out of what intention.
My name is Ryan Lanchi. I am a fashion and art curator, winner of Netflix's reality competition, The Big Flower Fight. Any inhibition, and it's because I want people to take stock and notice the ideas and the power of creative thinking and lateral thinking.
New tonight, an outraged father came to 10 News after he says his teacher refused his 10-year-old son a meal at school.
On camera that you broke the law. So you.
Well, that father captured his confrontation with that teacher on video. 10 News offering was live at Hilltop. The father said this is the second time that his child wasn't allowed to eat.
He says denied his son the meal, the chance for a second chance breakfast, because he hadn't done his schoolwork. He said when it happened before, he confronted and apologized. Well, after it happened again, it led to this. A father is reporting that his son's fifth-grade teacher Luis Valdivia says he went to Hilltop Elementary furious after hearing his son. I asked her when to get second chance breakfast. No, I just looked at all frustrated. The name and face we agreed to conceal says he denied breakfast at the school because his teacher said he was missing an assignment.
You know my son.
And if you well, not admitting Chula Vista spokesperson tells 10 News they are releasing the complaint, saying second breakfast.
I'm happy about
Not he says teachers sometimes hold
I don't need to schedule a meeting.
Valdivia says refusing his son food under any circumstance is abusive.
Terminate. Get rid of it. Does not give you the right, the authority to treat a child.
Now, again, the school district says that meal, what's called second chance breakfast, a chance for kids who miss it at home perhaps to get breakfast at school, is not a required breakfast or a required meal by law. So the teacher did not in fact violate the law, but whether they decide to discipline her.
Good evening, everyone. This begins tonight at 6 with a story on which we want your thoughts. A school cafeteria worker admits she didn't know and she understands why she was fired.
And she also she just couldn't stop giving children she felt needed. Pizza or a cheese sandwich? Debbie Salzman says that students in this district know who doesn't have any money because they're the ones with the cheese sandwich. For 14 years, Debbie Salzman worked as a beloved lunch lady here at Denver Place Elementary School in Wilmington. She says she would upgrade the lunch of a child who didn't have enough money or give them extra food if they said they were still hungry.
If they didn't have enough money on their account, they'd get a cheese sandwich instead with their sides. The other kids knew when they walked out into the cafeteria why they got the cheese sandwich.
She also hears stories of food insecurity.
There were children that got free lunch that would come back and say, Miss Debbie, I'm still hungry. Didn't you get your belly full for supper last night? And you don't know how many times I heard
Salzman says she kept IOUs and out of her own pocket for kids. The district suspended and terminated her this February for, quote, not keeping track of the register and providing food to her grandchildren without payment. Admits to giving her grandchildren extra food too. It says it wasn't.
I broke the rules. I'm the one that broke the rules.
Remember getting your driver's license? Age 16, right? Your parents started slow. An East Palestine kid would have been double his life. He had to make this money.
she run before bedtime. Patrolman Jake Kohler got a call on the radio Sunday night of a kid driving a vehicle. He pulled into the town's only McDonald's and talked with an 8-year-old boy still behind the wheel.
You know, what are you doing? He said, me and my sister really wanted a cheeseburger.
The boy had stood on his tiptoes to get the keys and took his 4-year-old sister with him on the food run. Patrolman Kohler still had some questions.
Then I asked him how he learned how to drive, and he said he looked up YouTube videos on how to drive.
The child started on East Martin Street, made one right turn, and went through 4 intersections. Didn't hit a thing. Even obeyed every traffic signal, stopping for red lights and waiting until they turned green. The entire route was 1.5 miles.
Seeing the Golden Arch Society could sense the kid's excitement, but there was one more step he still had to go through. 2 cheeseburgers, please. The kid was ready for his prize and eager to take off that familiar yellow wrapper, which would uncover a cheeseburger.
And whenever he pulled up to the first window, employees actually thought that they were being pranked.
The parents were not in the back of the van. They were at home. The vehicle was surrounded by adults in the McDonald's parking lot, and the boy was crying when Patrolman Kohler started talking to him, realizing he might be in trouble.
It's kind of funny on one hand, but being a parent, it'd be kind of scary to know that your 8-year-old son went down through the middle of town and took his 4-year-old sister in your van.
But for him to go out and drive and not break any of the traffic laws and actually obey them, I mean, I'll give him credit with that, especially from learning from a YouTube video. That's something else.
Patrolman Kohler is back on the beat, but he knows this call will be tough to beat.
Honest to God, I've only been a patrolman or a police officer for 2 years, but I don't think I'll have anything like this.
It's a billion-dollar industry. But skull-crushing hits like these can leave even young players concussed, motionless, and with permanent damage to their brain. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, is caused by repeated blows to the head. Its discovery is the main focus of the film Concussion, starring
Once you make that contact, everything come together.
to play or not to play is the question. It's one even Super Bowl winners like Lamar Woodley must tackle every day.
Y'all gotta take care of your body, man. Everything from the head on down. Because at the end of the day, when you get off the football field, you still gotta go home and enjoy life. Ciao, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
Good, man. Today, Lamar joins the What Would You Do team.
How do you think people will react, Lamar? There's gonna be people that don't want their kids to play football due to the concussions and all the different studies that's going on now.
Would you push your son to play?
If you want to play football,
For some teams, it can make the difference between popularity and obscurity. But keeping up with the latest trends,
Guys, what do you think of this shoe?
can be costly.
Why'd you come if you're going to be shopping in the clearance aisle? What? I really like the color.
No, bro, you really like the price.
If you overheard these teens
Yeah, but I also really like the shoe.
bullying and shaming a fellow classmate simply because he doesn't have the money,
Stick to the hand-me-down, right? You're too poor to shop here.
Seriously, Ashton, this isn't a thrift store.
what would you do? Today, the boys are shopping for new clothes at Feet First in Red Bank, New Jersey.
Yo, Ashton, look, they're like $20. Look, you can afford them. Congratulations.
These first customers listen in as our bully's ugly banter is on full display.
Bro, why'd you even come, Dion? I literally just want to hang out with you guys, okay?
In school, I don't talk to you. You always wear these hand-me-downs.
It's not my fault. I thought you guys were my friends.
How much money did you bring anyway?
I don't know, my mom gave me 20.
$20.
It's embarrassing to use you in public.
Ashton's had enough.
Forget you.
Will these EMTs come to his aid?
Why do you get so mad?
I don't know. The dude got issues. He don't got money, and that's the problem.
I don't know. The kid, he seemed like a nice boy.
Well, why doesn't he have money? Because his mom is poor. So it's not his fault, though. It's not his fault. So why is he tagging along?
Your friend.
Are you a friend or not? You decide. Your friend? No, not really. Okay. So why do you think him?
With their pleas falling on deaf ears,
Don't think you should have came in the first place.
they take matters into their own hands.
She's gonna give him money. Let's watch this. Tell him to stop it.
I can't. No, I can't. No.
We're EMTs, and we understand that some people aren't as fortunate as other people, and we help people, and we want to help you.
Let's break it. Let's break it.
Please.
Why are you? You don't have to do
No,
this.
you come to me, and I talk to your friend and try to make them understand that not everybody's in the same scenario. No, please. So, stand by your mind.
This is my legacy.
Our legacy.
Our legacy, whatever.
You know, when something breaks in your house, you have to rely on the repairman who comes to fix it. But how would you know if they were charging hundreds, even thousands for repairs that you didn't need? Well, we put various repairmen to the test. We rented the house for an entire month, checked it out with cameras, and then called the fix-it guys. When they arrived, Lisa Guerrero was waiting for them. Here's the first in a special Inside Edition series you don't want to miss.
From above, it looks like any other house in lovely Montclair, New Jersey. But this house is watching you. Come on in, let me show you around. We've installed more than a dozen hidden cameras. In this water bottle, the screws in the wall, behind two-way mirrors, they're everywhere, even in my glasses. All the images are being fed back to our secret command post. Now we're about to put some home repairmen to the test. First, we enlisted the help of two garage door experts, Mark McManus with Doorboy and Andrew Cimino with Christie Overhead Door.
The garage door itself is in perfect condition. Everything's in perfect working order.
Next, we created a minor problem the experts say any repairman should be able to instantly recognize and fix.
We're going to purposely misalign one of the sensors. This is going to make the garage door not close. This should be a simple fix for any door dealer that's not trying to rip you off.
To fix the problem, all you've got to do is realign the sensors, and just like that, it's fixed. Then I booked appointments. Can somebody come out tomorrow to take a look at my garage door? It's not shutting. When this technician from Sears showed up, he goes straight to the sensors and fixes it in a flash. That took him what, 30 seconds?
All that takes. So it's as simple as just turning the sensor. It's very easy to fix.
Thanks, dude. Great work. 5 other repairmen also honed right in on our sensors and fixed them for a small service fee. Thanks to all these guys, too. But look what happens next.
Hi, how are you?
This guy is from a company called Garage Door Repair.
My garage door isn't working. Let me take you around and show you. This should be working from all the way back here.
I hand over the remote and let him get to work. He also spots the sensors, but when he comes back inside, his diagnosis is grim.
The sensors are dead.
The sensors are dead,
What's he doing? Well, he's basically trying to rip her off.
so those need to be replaced no matter what.
Exactly. No matter what.
Oh man, do you want to go and show me?
Back in the garage, he delivers more bad news.
The hero here is electrical. And the sensors are dead.
No, they're not. His price to fix it all today?
How much? $720.
But instead of hiring him, I had some questions. Were you just trying to sell me sensors and a motor that I don't need?
You don't need the sensors? It's dead. All you need to do is just take a picture of me. I'm done.
Weren't you trying to rip me off just now?
No, that was a total rip-off. There's absolutely no reason for any of this to be replaced.
But look what happens next. These two guys check out the sensors and seem to fix the door, but then he says this.
I already know it.
Oh, you do? Okay, you want to show me?
That's electrical problem.
It's an electrical problem. Push it.
Alright, you see that?
Yeah.
That's letting you know there's a malfunction in the unit. That's completely untrue.
So about how much is it going to cost?
$475. I will use a coupon from online. I could do it for $400.
And
That was a total rip-off. There was absolutely no reason for any of this to be replaced.
but look what happens next. These two
Alright, you see that?
Yeah.
That's letting you know there's a malfunction in the unit. That's completely right.
So about how much is this going to cost?
$475. I will use a coupon from online. I could do it for $400.
$400.
Fixed. All in. If you do cash, no tax.
Time to reveal who I really am. I'd like to know if you just tried to charge me $400 to fix a circuit board that doesn't need repair.
The garage door opener is not working.
He insists the opener is broken. Are you guys trying to rip off people?
No, we're not.
The most important thing a consumer should really know is that there are predatory companies out there.
Ho, ho, ho! 'Tis the season, and we're at the store, selling hot cocoa
Hot cocoa, get your hot cocoa.
and goodies galore.
How about a peppermint stick?
If you were their customer,
How about a Hershey's Kiss?
what would you do?
How many marshmallows do you want with that?
If Santa's little helpers
More? Yeah, more.
tried to swindle you,
Your total is $25.95.
it's Christmas time, of course.
For a good cause.
But would you make a fuss
It's probably enough to get that new Xbox.
if those kids in need
They're us. Santa didn't bring us everything we asked for last year, so we're taking things into our own hands. It's Christmas time. People are in a generous mood. Put on your paraphernalia.
We're all set for customers at Dearborn Market in Homeville, New Jersey.
Hot cocoa, get your hot cocoa. It's delicious. Do you like this or the Santa?
We'll go with the Santa.
No marshmallows with that? How many?
One scoop.
An apple cider donut?
Yeah.
And you want a straw with this?
Huh?
You said you want me to choose again? Yes, please.
All these yeses are adding up.
So one donut, one hot cocoa, one cake.
Okay, so your total is $15.50.
$15.
And 50 cents.
The three things, really?
That's what it added up to, yeah.
Let's break it down.
6 marshmallows, $1 per marshmallow.
$1 for marshmallows? Are you kidding me? Those can't be $1 each.
They're pretty good marshmallows.
All right. Appreciate that.
Have they just made their first sale?
This is all going to a charity? Just say, it's for needy children, and I need an iPad.
Like, I need an iPad.
Because you need an iPad? Is that what you said?
Yes. I've been waiting for like ever.
Oops, did they reveal a little too much?
$1 for a little marshmallow.
We've got good old Saint Nick with us, and he's watching.
I was thinking we'd bring Santa Claus out. Hey everyone, how are my little helpers doing?
We sent him in to assist.
Are they really your little helpers?
Will this man add them
They want to charge me $10 for one donut.
to Santa's naughty list?
What should Santa do? Put him on the naughty list or the nice list? I would be fine with a warning and $1 for the donut. Well, you're going to go on the warning list.
They escaped with a warning. They don't seem to care.
This is Monopoly. I didn't have any competition.
It's just business, they say.
I think our prices are pretty fair. Yep, that's fine. Is it $1 for a cup of hot chocolate? $1 for hot chocolate, but that's kind of